Sorry, go ahead.
Ireland is still as beautiful as I remember. Company was lacking.
How about a drink?
Please. Thank you. You might want to just leave that right there. Thank you.
Alfio brothers and McKinley are behind bars. We recovered money. It's gonna make a difference in a lot of people's lives. All because of you.
Yeah, well, I spent a lot of years chasing Ethan's ghost. Changed who I am as a person. Now that I caught him, I just don't know who I'm gonna be, you know?
Time to find out.
No more excuses. I know you just got off the plane, but we're going dancing.
Oh, yeah?
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you can keep up with me, though.
Oh, that is some tough talk coming from someone who's been a shut-in for 6 months.
Yeah, well, maybe. But I'm not the same girl I used to be, so.
With Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No.
I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something. Is a
Hot mic. Hot mic. On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Thursday, I mean. Guys, I ran out of coffee this morning. We're struggling a little bit. We are struggling. We haven't even had a full cup yet. But it is a beautiful day here in North Dakota. Hope you all are having a great start to your morning. And thanks for tuning in wherever you may be watching, whether that's KSFL down in Sioux Falls, on WDAY Extra, or Inform.com. Don Izzo is out for the week on another vacation, so I am filling in for him today. And we're actually going to switch things up a little bit today. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a while now. And when I watch sports talk shows, it's something that I love, the banter between people. So I decided to bring a co-host on, and he was such a big hit last week when he was on the show, and he was so kind to get up early, come into work earlier than he normally does. We are doing Hot Mic with Hot Mike. Mike Capel.
Can't wait to watch this.
I gotta turn your microphone on.
Now people can't hear me. That was you wasted. Now you got to back up.
Oh, sorry, I messed up.
Redo the whole intro with more fanfare.
Oh, is that boring?
What she actually did is said, "Hey, we're gonna have like this donut party, and there's gonna be like some egg McMuffins and stuff." And then I came in and I sat in this chair, and then she's like, "Oh, by the way, you're co-hosting the show with me." So I totally caught off guard.
Tricked him.
No, happy to be here.
Thanks for doing it. I'm excited.
Thanks for making it sound like I'm some schlub who just lays around and doesn't come into work till 10:30, 11 in the morning, which is true, actually.
No, I don't come in until 10:30 either.
So for many years, I hosted a morning radio show, and you have to be at work at 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
And so one of the nice changes when I got out of radio 2 years ago to move into TV production was not having to be at work in the morning and speaking, unlike right now.
Yeah.
But for you, I do it.
I
do it for you.
That. I'm bringing you back to the glory days.
You are. You're bringing me back. It's good to be back.
Is it?
Yeah, I can't believe you keep the Jets flag up when Dom's not here.
Well, so I
don't bring any commander gear in.
I have 2 commander footballs that I got while I worked there, and I always want to bring them in, but then I forget. Like I was just telling you today, I was halfway to work. I was like, I feel like I'm forgetting something. I'm like, oh, I don't even have my phone with me.
You didn't have your phone?
No.
I freak out. Do you panic when you realize you don't have your phone? I freak out.
Well,
it's getting to be a problem.
I kind of was like, this has been happening a lot lately. I've just been so bad with my phone, and I've always been really bad with my phone, like responding and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, oh, like I could probably go the whole day without it. And then I'm like, if we had a day like yesterday with all this breaking news, I can't go the day
well, it's your
without
lifeblood,
my
right?
phone.
Being a reporter and you're just working on news and stuff like you do.
Yeah, which is like it's a blessing and a curse because there's so many times I just want to unplug and not be on social media, not have to talk to anyone. But you can't with this job. You have to be on your phone 24/7.
Yeah.
So I was like, I should probably turn on and get that. So
yeah. Well, you weren't when you first started out. Yeah, we noticed like you're not very active on social media. For example, we were just talking about your Facebook page because I put up a post on Facebook that I was going to be doing this with you, and your profile picture, it looks like you're 6 years old. I mean, you're very young looking anyway, but it's like even 5-6 years ago, even younger.
I was 20 in my profile picture, which is 6 years ago. I actually had Jeff Kolpak text me the other week a screenshot of my profile, and he was like, some 15-year-old is pretending to be you on Facebook. I was like, I just don't use it, and I have not updated it.
You have some red feather in your, was that a fad you were going through?
No, it was an earring. That was the style back then.
I don't
Big,
remember that
chunky
style.
Earrings.
And what year was this?
2019. No. 2018.
I don't remember that.
It was like,
that
yeah, you
style
either
fad.
wore like, you're a boy, you don't get it.
I don't understand.
Okay, we should probably talk about some sports.
Whatever you want to talk about.
Show. We'll get to this later. I'll quickly go through our guest lineup. NHL draft, first round was yesterday. Today is rounds 2 through 7. Some UND people are expected to get picked today. We have Brad Schlossman coming on. He's going to talk a little bit about who might be expected to go. Breaking news happened in the FCS. I went on a rant yesterday saying it was going to happen. It did not end up happening. No changes to the FCS playoffs. I was able to stop up and talk to NDSU Athletic Director Matt Larsen yesterday. He shared a little insight about what went into that decision. So we'll pull up that interview. And then Grant Nelson finally made the commitment to go to Alabama.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
You can't ever say Alabama and say Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. JMU kind of copied that and says Roll Dukes. Anyways, his parents were able to talk with me. That interview is so funny. I can't wait to share.
They're the nicest people.
The nicest.
Yeah, we got
people.
a chance to interact with them quite a bit during the season, doing all the home games, and it's super nice.
Yes, and they wanted to get the whole family involved in this interview.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Oh, really?
There's actually breaking news in this interview with another Nelson son.
Holy cow!
So I'm excited to share that.
We got to change your new nickname is Scoop. Scoop Campbell
for the Nelson family.
Yeah, just in general, scooping it left and right.
I don't know if I get that many scoops.
You do pretty good. You seem to get
we
info.
I
hear info from you all the time.
Yeah, we have some occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
Did you happen to see what happened last night between the Yankees and the Oakland?
I got a notification and I didn't see any of it, but a perfect game was pitched.
Perfect game. Do you know when the last perfect game was?
Boy, I couldn't even tell you. I know there's been several no-hitters, but perfect game. I don't know.
I think I saw something saying it was 11 years.
It's been 11 years since the last perfect game.
Yes.
The Yankees needed that.
August 15th, 2012. Last time there was a no-hitter. Last night it happened between... I wish I could get excited about either of those teams, but I'm a Red Sox fan, so not the biggest fan of the Yankees.
Wait a minute now. You're from D.C. and you're a Red Sox fan.
Yeah.
Not a Nats fan?
I mean, See, this is where... I grew up watching the Red Sox.
Okay.
And then...
Is your dad like a Red Sox fan or something?
So my dad's like
so
a
you
Boston
come by
sports
it
fan.
honestly then.
Yeah. And then then I started covering the Nats for my internship. And I was like, oh, they're pretty good. They won the World Series that year. So yeah, they're
Oh, nice. It was a good year to cover them.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, history was made last night. I don't know if we can roll in that video. I know you guys just had it up. So
the MLB, I was just talking to you about this the other day. Well, I had to go give Dom a little bit of a hard time about the Mets because of their just epic. The Mets are amazing to me because they just when you think the Mets can't do a more Mets thing, they outmet the Mets. They constantly find new and unbelievable ways to just completely, absolutely blow it, and they did the other night, and it was just a continuation of the season with the highest payroll in the history of Major League Baseball. And I'm sure Dom has gone on and on about this, but it's currently 17 games back of the Atlanta Braves.
Well, that division is
National
just so
East.
hard, though. I mean, we saw them put up a clinic
Right.
against the Twins over the past 3 days.
That's another amazing story. There's just, to me, the Major League Baseball story has been fascinating this year. Of course, we didn't really know what to expect going in with the pitch clock and everything. But I've been watching baseball again because I don't have to block out 5 hours when the Yankees and Red Sox play to watch the entire game anymore. They've cut the game time down dramatically, but the Twins, for all the negative talk we hear about the Twins on talk radio and all the different things that you see about the Twins and them just not performing very well, they're in first place, which I think speaks to the division that they're in more than anything. But every division is upside down. Tampa Bay, which to me, Tampa is my favorite all-time probably baseball story just because they're in the AL East, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Baltimore Orioles, who've been kind of absent really for the last 25 years. Well, you're from that area. And but a once great organization with a rich history, the Baltimore Orioles, and all these just the Toronto Blue Jays team that'll spend money, Canada's team, and the Tampa Bay Rays somehow figure it out every year, a way to just continue to be at the top of that division, find their way in the playoffs, and they have literally 8 fans that show up for their games. That stadium is the worst stadium in baseball. It's always empty. And they just continue to field team, which makes it even more frustrating for Twins fans because part of the sell of moving to Target Field and getting out of the Metrodome and needing their own stadium was, well, now they can be competitive because they don't have to share revenue and all the different things that went on in the Metrodome, and it'll bring fans out. Because going to the Metrodome, I mean, on a nice summer day, it was awful. I mean, you're going inside and you couldn't see the ball in there because of the white roof, and it wasn't great. It wasn't a great atmosphere. A little bit of a home field advantage, I guess, for the Twins because other teams that came in really couldn't see the ball. But that was part of the thing when they moved out to Target Field, that they were going to spend money and become become more competitive. And they've had their moments, but it's kind of weird because the years you think that they really haven't done much and aren't going to be competitive, they're competitive.
Right.
And then the years where in the off season they make moves and you're like, oh, this is going to be okay. This is the year. Maybe we can finally get past the Yankees in a first round playoff game, and it just never materializes. It never happens. So, but it's fun. That's what I love about Major League Baseball, seeing all these teams right now that are on the tops of their divisions. Arizona, Cincinnati, another team that doesn't spend any money, with the Cardinals at the bottom of that division. Been a lot of fun to watch. And of course, Oakland is just 29 games out, but when they move to Vegas, hopefully that'll change and they'll start spending money too. But Major League Baseball, interesting because all the other sports with the salary caps and everything, and you think in Major League Baseball, you can just buy your way to the top. But we find out, just like in basketball, like with super teams, we think, well, super teams are the way to go because that's what LeBron did, right? He went to Miami, teamed up with D-Wade, came out to L.A., won a title in the bubble, and went back to Cleveland, and they made that work with Kyrie. And same thing in baseball. You think, well, you can just buy your way, but in the end, it's interesting because even in the NBA, rather, other than LeBron, the super team thing really doesn't work. Like the Golden State Warriors, they weren't built that way. I mean, they brought in pieces over the time, like when they brought KD in, and they're making moves this offseason, but drafting and building is still the way to go in most sports. In the NFL, most guys are undrafted. A lot of those guys. So it's always fun. Free agency is always great to talk about. A lot of fun. It makes for interesting fodder, but just the old boring way of building a team in whatever sport. Baseball standings this year are a shining example of that.
Well, and I think baseball is a fun sport because there's 2 halves of the season, and like they could be trashed or really good the first half of the season, and then completely flip a switch in the second half of the season.
And that's the thing, and that's what's funny when you listen to baseball players when they talk. I was listening to some of the Mets stuff, and even the Twins, when they're having some of these issues. But baseball players don't get excited about it. You just hear in their voice saying, it's just we go out there. I think I heard was it Buck Showalter the other day? Again, we go out there and just keep trying hard. Baseball players are just it's very chill because you're playing 162 games. You're going to, at some point in the season, even the most elite team is going to have a stretch where it just isn't going right. So you can turn it around, like you said, in a moment. The Mets the good news for the Mets is that exactly. I mean, at this point in the season, if you're going to kind of tank, for the Mets, it'd be a nice change of pace for them to do it early instead of late.
Well,
So maybe they can turn it around and do the opposite of what they would normally do. Because normally right now they'd be the team with the 10 game lead and then blow it after the 4th of July. So maybe this year it'll be opposite for them.
well, they're just in such a tough division.
Right.
And when I look at the AL Central, it reminds me of the NFC East from like 3 years ago when it was called the NFC Least.
Yes.
This is what the AL Central is reminding me of. And now the Twins, after yesterday's loss, they're now half a game behind Cleveland now.
Yeah.
So,
which is amazing to me that they've stayed in first as long as they have.
I know.
Being as inconsistent, we'll say, to be kind, as they've been recently.
Inconsistent. And I think that's
It's a nice word.
I think that is a nice word, and I think that's the perfect word to describe Minnesota sports. Inconsistent. I'll say it right now. But neither of us are Minnesota fans, so we can't
Right.
Really,
I grew up
on
here, but I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Ugh.
And you're a Washington fan. We're still friends somehow.
Somehow.
Well, and
we don't really talk about.
Well, I didn't know that for and it might have been different because I didn't know that for probably like 3 months. And then you finally brought some kind of Washington. It was an old Redskins thing or something. I was like, oh,
You didn't know that?
not right away.
Really?
Well, how
thought
would I know that?
Everyone knew I worked there.
No, I didn't know any of that till a while. Because I mean, we this place is weird when people start here. There's never really any formal introductions. I think the first time I met you, we were at like a Bison game that we're doing, and it's like, who are you? Like, I'm the new sideline reporter.
No, I remember actually.
Oh, nice to meet you.
It was like the first game, and I was full on like panicking. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. You're like, you're gonna do great. Just like calm, like just take a deep breath. Like you're gonna be fine.
Well, I remember going, who's this chick with the WDAY microphone in her hand I've never seen before?
There was no introduction.
So yeah, when people start working here, it's just you just kind of meet people.
They're thrown right into the fire.
Yeah,
Like, you got it. Go ahead.
Because things are just happening. And, things are so crazy around here all the time. It's just the way it is. And we always lay out plans like, oh, we're going to do this thing so people get to, it just never works out that way because it's just chaos all the time. But
I know.
Yeah, so that's how I got to know you. So I didn't know anything right away.
No, but we became good friends.
If you would have
really
led with, hey, I'm a Redskins or Commanders fan, I'd have been like, oh, no,
Never
nice
mind.
to meet you.
Nice to meet you. We're
Good
gonna
luck.
keep our distance.
Good luck over here. But luckily you held that back. See, that's smart. You can use that in the world of dating.
I knew.
Hold back information and then slowly it's got to be a slow drip.
Was that your approach to when you met
That
Katie?
should be everybody's approach in dating. You can't just dating is a sales relationship, right? You can't just go out and be all full on you. You gotta
think?
You're dating, you're a representative of yourself. You're like selling yourself, and then as time goes on, you just slow drip the real you out.
I will say, when it comes to like dating your first, like trying to get to know someone, I'm always like super cautious about like food. Like if we go on a dinner date, I'm like, I don't want to get anything too expensive. Don't want to get anything like too like big that they're like, what the heck is wrong with this girl?
Because you could put some down, right?
Yeah, you've seen me eat.
Yeah,
you've seen me.
Yeah, we
eat.
go out on the road and stuff. All of us, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, like don't like.
So what do you do? Do you get a salad?
No, you're not supposed to get salads on a first date, by the way.
Because it gets the green in your teeth.
Why
is that?
You get it stuck in your teeth.
Because of the green in the teeth?
Yep, you're not supposed to get a salad on your first date.
So what do you go with on a first date? Let's say you're going to like an Italian restaurant because, you get the big...
Excuse me? How did you just say that?
Italian?
No.
Italian?
Italian. You sound like my friend Emily. She says Italian, and we hate it. Okay, anyways.
All right. So you go to an Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
What are you gonna get? I mean, what's
Pasta?
dainty?
No, I'm getting.
You're gonna
pasta.
get something dainty. Is it gonna be like an angel hair, so it's not like a thick pasta, just like something dainty and thin?
No.
With some like clams.
I love that
seafood
kind of pasta.
pasta.
I love seafood pasta.
Right.
No, probably not. I would probably get something with like chicken and pasta, not chicken Alfredo though, but something with chicken and pasta. I feel like is like a safe option.
Yeah.
That's what I would probably get.
Yeah, eating with somebody new is always a weird experience.
Yes, I remember for homecoming, my high school relationship was terrible. So the last minute, I went with someone else to homecoming because he didn't have a date, and my boyfriend at the time didn't want to ask me, so I was like, whatever. So I went with someone else, and we went to this really nice Italian restaurant at home called Zeffirelli's, and he decided to get the veal chop. It was like $90. It's this huge hunk of meat.
Nice.
And I'm sitting there with my pasta. I can't even remember what I got. I actually think it was like the one with the clams.
Yeah.
So,
like a seafood pasta.
Yeah, I was like, oh, like this, like
that's
it's
a
good,
safe
that's what I want.
option, right?
Yeah, so I was eating it, and I was just like looking at his, like so jealous. I was like, oh my god, like that looks so good.
But that wasn't a real date, so you could have ordered the 90-pound
No,
steak
but
that he
it's
ordered.
like the guys pay for your meal, and it was $90.
Oh, so you didn't want to be like a burden.
Right. Especially because I didn't really know him. He didn't really know me. I
Yeah.
wasn't going to make him pay $90 for that. But I was just like looking at his meat. Or what did you have to do?
Maybe we should take a break.
Let me
What do you
finish
think?
the story. Stop.
Oh, God. I'm not here.
Yeah, stop. I was looking at his
Puppies and kitties, puppies and kitties.
at the field shop, and he was like, "Do you want some?" I was like, "Yes, please." And he like cut off a piece for me. Okay, we gotta get our stuff together. We're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about sports. Welcome back, everyone. We have pulled ourselves together.
Yes.
We're ready for the
This
second
is a
part
very serious
of this first half hour.
sports program. Very serious.
Very serious sports program. I'm Logan Campbell. He's Mike Capel. We refer to him as Hot Mike when he's on.
That's right. You can just call me Hot if you want from now on.
Hot?
Yeah, just
All
around
right.
the office and stuff. Everybody can start calling me Hot.
Hot. I
Yep.
get called. I just hear Stacey yell, Campbell! Campbell! I'm
Well,
like,
we have
what did I do?
When we're on a crew, we were doing golf this last weekend, and there was like 3 different mics on the crew.
We have
We
many mics.
we have Michael Jeffs, who's in the back. He's one of our producers today with Eric. And then we have Mike Knodel.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was me. So when Mike is said, then all these heads snap around. So you guys can just start calling me Hot.
Hot?
Yeah.
We can start it.
Yeah, I like it.
We can start a trend.
Hot.
Hot.
All right, what's
Hot is in
going
the
on?
building.
Sports.
Sports. Okay, so yesterday, NDSU football got a few new commits for the class of 2024. They got one from the cities. Apple Valley is the school that he goes to. He's a defensive back. His name is William Washington. We will hear from him later today. Hopefully, we're trying to figure out a time. He's at football right now. So hopefully, we'll be able to catch up with him later. And then they also got a running back from Chanhassen.
Chanhassen, yep.
Maxwell Woods.
Okay.
So they got the running back.
How many, and that, what does that make? 14 running backs in that running back room?
No, because
That thing is stacked. Or did a lot of guys transfer out?
Kobe transferred.
Yep.
Well, they have a good amount coming back. They have TK Marshall, Tamarick Williams, but he won't be. I think TK and Tamarick will be gone by the time he gets here.
Well, this will be interesting because, I mean, now after all these years, I mean, it's really truly Matt Ence's stamp on the program, you know, really moving forward. And it's college football so interesting right now. Just the landscape of everything changing. FCS really in a state of flux. And I know you're going to talk a little bit about the playoff expansion with Matt Larsen here later this morning, or the discussed playoff expansion that didn't happen. But just going to be fascinating in the next 5 to 10 years. There's so many issues hanging out there. FCS in terms of the FCS division in general. I mean, what's the future of it? It seems like it seems more and more lost as time goes on. All these great rivalries, JMU leaving, Coastal Carolina, all these big teams that NDSU's had these fun rivalries with and great playoff games, great championship games are out. Teams like Eastern Washington, who the Bison open up with this year, are kind of a shell of what they used to be. And really, I mean, you look at the division and you got the 2 Dakota schools, the state schools. You've got the Montana schools. And then, you know, you got your kind of random Sac States and a few others floating around out there. But what you got? 8? I mean, you can almost pencil NDSU in as a semifinal team every year, which, I mean, it's fun, but obviously we've seen fan interest, at least at the stadium, dwindle. Luckily for us, and I guess that's kind of worked in our favor, right? Because we broadcast the games. And what's nice is people are not going to not watch Bison football. They're still watching the games. They're still taking the game in, but the experience of, do I want to, you know, go to the dome, traffic, all the different things that go into dealing with a game day experience, which they put on a fantastic show in there in terms of just like, I still get the chills when the lights go down and the music starts and I mean, it's just such a great experience, but just the interest doesn't seem to be there. And I know there's a lot of discussion about what can bring people out. And I just think it's going to be some kind of a change in the competitive landscape of who NDSU plays. I don't think, you know, teams like Murray State are going to get anybody too excited, but you know, how does that shake out? Is there going to be an opportunity here with all these teams leaving to go fill in the Pac-10? And is there going to be an opportunity in some of these other conferences that these teams are? It's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. And how does that affect the rest of the school? Is it going to be all sports? Is it just going to be football? Because I think that gets lost in this too. I mean, one of the things that we get to do and see every week is NDSU basketball. And to me, that is the most least appreciated thing is Dave Richmond and what he does with that men's team every year. You look at this past season, they started off because they'll always put a meat grinder of a schedule together to start off because he wants them to play tough competition. So they're ready to play in February and March. And everybody kind of wrote them off after they had a rough start because they had a rough schedule. But conference play starts, and as Dave Richmond does every year, he pulls that team together. And by February or March, no matter how the regular season went, that team is competitive in the Summit League tournament and always has a shot, it seems, to get to the NCAA tournament. And The women's program, Jory's done a fantastic job turning that around too, and they were a very competitive, fun team to watch last year. And so that's, to me, if there's anything I wish I would see more, is more fans come out to those basketball games, because both those teams are a lot of fun to watch. Those coaches are both top notch. Both those guys are great and have done a great job. So, but it would be interesting to see if NDSU does move up and it's a full move. It's tough for basketball because recruiting in basketball, it's already difficult when you're a mid-major. It's not like being in a smaller market like NDSU with football. I feel like you can still get top-notch players that way, but basketball it's real tough. So I don't know what would happen competitively there, because in the Summit League, NDSU's always got a shot. I don't know if it'd be the same if they're in the WAC or something like that.
It would definitely be harder. And then you throw the transfer portal in the mix.
Right.
But now they're discussing cutting the transfer portal window from 60 to 30. I'm looking at this article ESPN put out. 2,224 Division I football players entered the transfer portal this past winter, and 1,373 entered in the spring. That's the most that have ever entered the portal.
So are there two? I don't even understand the timing. Is there two? I know there's two signing periods now. Is there two portal periods as well?
So,
but you don't. But nobody. There's no like. The public doesn't really know unless the player or the school or somebody announces it, right? A kid can put his name in the portal. Now the school will know, I would assume, because they have access, don't they? But the public in general doesn't.
Public doesn't.
And for media, you just have to kind of rely on sources and stuff, right?
So
To
it's
find
interesting, and I found this out, and I don't know how true this is. This is just what I heard. Obviously, I don't see.
Right.
But I heard that when students from a school enter their name in the transfer portal, like, the school can't see. They know that someone did just because of the paperwork, but they can't see their names in the portal, is what I heard. But other people can see their names in the portal because they want to protect the kid.
Right. But eventually it's going to get out.
I know. But to answer your first question,
everything the NCAA does, it's like they're half pregnant. That's everything they do.
What do you mean?
Everything. So I go back to UND and the Fighting Sioux nickname. So we're against Native American nicknames or against Native American imagery, except when it's Florida State, because and they use the guise of all the tribes voted and all of this. But it's interesting how they took that name away from UND, but teams that make a lot of money for the NCAA, Central Michigan, Florida State, they were able to keep those names somehow. So they're always doing things like, oh, well, it's this way, it's that way. Same thing with NIL. So Miami just got nailed because of the Cavender twins, right? They were the first, I think, in the NIL world to get nailed for tampering. But what is tampering anymore?
Everyone does it.
Well, and the thing is okay, so a school, so players can now make decisions based on NIL. And so talking to a booster about opportunities that may lie ahead. So when they were talking to Miami, there was a booster involved in discussions, and now there's these collectives, these NIL collectives that the school can't be a part of, because the school still can't give the kids anything, but they can seek these outside opportunities. Well, of course, a student isn't going to make a decision to go somewhere. So if I'm the Cavender twins, who have this two attractive young girls, have this massive social media following, I'm going to try to figure out where I can go and get the most in terms of what I want to make. Now, competitively, obviously, they wanted to play in Miami, had a nice run in the women's NCAA basketball tournament. So that part of it was factored in as well. But my point is, if you're going to have this process, this NIL process, and this process for these athletes to make money, they're going to need to have those conversations. They're going to need to talk to somebody from a collective. They're going to need to talk to a booster. So like everything the NCAA does, it's like, yeah, well, we kind of have this rule. And same thing with this. The high school, the signing days, right? They added the second signing day, trying to I guess spread things out so there's not so much stress on the coaching staff. But now you got kids signing and you're doing campus visits in the middle of the season. And now you throw this transfer portal in, and it's in the middle of playoff time for a lot of teams and stuff going on. So there's no perfect way to do it. I'm not saying it's an easy thing for the NCAA to figure out, but they always try to play both sides of these issues. And I don't know. I think the NCAA is a terrible organization. Personally, there's so many other things we could get into, like Oliver Luck from West Virginia, when they made him oversee, it was like some ethics title they gave him while West Virginia was being investigated from his time there for violations, and this is the guy they put in charge of that. I mean, that's just what they did to Penn State after everything that happened there, which I know there's people on both sides of that, but it was kind of punishing people that weren't really the problem, and that's just, there's many examples of that. But yeah, the NCAA just
kind of like a trial and error situation with them.
Yeah, and again, I give them some slack on this on this NIL world and player signing, because there's just so many things involved, and the more you talk to coaches and you hear and you read that there's no perfect way to do it, right? So you could either open it up and have transfer portals and high school signings at any time, or you have to have windows. But if you have a window, doesn't matter how many windows you create, the first day of that window, it turns into a thing, Mm-hmm. So you could have 4 windows, right? It's like, well, these are the windows. They're trying to spread things out. Well, no, now you just have 4 separate hard dates, because as soon as that first day comes, that's going to be the new, signing day 3,
right?
Transfer portal day 4. So there's just, I don't know what the right answer is, and then there's a whole other issue now in the courts where the NCAA are these students employees of the school. That's the next legal challenge coming down the line, on top of the shuffling around of all these conferences and everything. So it's an interesting time to watch from afar, but it always seems like if there's a worse decision to make, the NCAA seems to figure out a way to make that decision.
We could have a whole separate podcast just about this topic that we could go on for 2 hours.
Don't get me started on the NCAA and Mark Emmett. Oh, my God.
We got to take a break. When we come back, the NHL draft, it happened last night. It is still happening tonight. We'll have Brad join us and talk a little bit more about that. You're watching Hot Mic on WDAY Extra and Forum.com and KSFL.
Time to chat some hockey.
Shot score! North Dakota wins!
The best college hockey writer in the country is on deck.
North Dakota, champions of the college hockey world!
Here's Brad Schlossman.
Welcome back, everyone. Round 1 of the NHL draft happened last night. Rounds 2 through 7 start today at 10. Brad Schlossman, is so good to see you. How are you?
Good. It's always fun to follow the draft. So fun time of year for the college hockey world.
So fun, and you are our insider for all things UND hockey. First, I want to get your thoughts on the Wild's pick last night. 21st overall, they select Charlie Stramel, who's from Wisconsin. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a really interesting pick. They're really rolling the dice, I think, with this pick. Stramel's a big kid, powerful, really good below the dots in the offensive zone. The big question for him is he hasn't produced a ton offensively. And like you wonder where he slots in. And I think, he played really well at the World Juniors. He was in a lower line role there. And, I think with, his body type and the way he plays, he can definitely play a bottom 6 role in the NHL on the 3rd or 4th line. But I don't think you use a first round pick on a guy you project to be a 3rd or 4th line guy. So I think the Wild are of the belief that the offense is going to come. Okay. And that is the question. Will the offense actually come or won't it? And that's where I think they're rolling the dice, because if you draft a guy and, in the first round, you have to project that there's going to be a little bit more offense than Charlie Stramel's shown so far. And we'll see if it comes around. If it does, then, the scouting staff there is going to look really, really smart. If it doesn't, I think everyone's going to look back and wonder why they used a first round pick there. He's a guy, he's had injury issues in the past that have set him back. Like it was a year or two ago, he had an injury. This year he jumped into college hockey as one of the youngest players in college hockey. So it makes sense why he might not produce as one of the youngest players in the entire country. However, that has to make them a little nervous that there isn't a really long track record of offensive production.
Who would you have liked them to pick?
I really like Gabe Perreault, who the Rangers picked. He was on that top line for the NTDP U18s last year. I think he's a really good player. He has produced quite a bit. He was playing with Will Smith, who went number 4 overall, and Will Smith, I think, was definitely the driver on that line, and he has unbelievable vision, and he really helped out Gabe Perreault. But I still think Perreault is an excellent player. Maybe Stramel ends up being better than Perreault. Who knows? NHL is a little bit different. Like NFL, you're drafting guys who are going into the league the next year. They're 1 year out of joining the league. NHL, you are drafting at 20 guys you're trying to project what they're going to be in 4 years. And right now, Perreault has been maybe a little bit of a higher end player. What the Wild are clearly banking on is saying, hey, a guy with this body type is going to take a little longer to develop, but that's okay, because by the time he comes to us, we think this guy is going to be the better player. So NHL is a little bit more inexact, and because you're projecting down the road, and clearly the Wild think Stramel is going to develop into a really good, big, powerful second line center.
Picking based off of potential. That's a little bit scary.
Yeah.
A little bit. Today in round 2, they have two picks, the 53rd and 64th pick. Who are we thinking they're going to pick? Who would you like to see picked?
Oh, once, the first round in the NHL, a lot of the teams' draft boards are fairly similar. There's some differences. And once you get to the second day, the teams' draft boards are unbelievably different. I don't think fans realize that, like, there are some teams that'll have a guy rated like with a second round grade, and there will be other teams that don't even have that guy on their board at all.
Wow.
So like the opinions of the guys that will go today, I would say, maybe like the top half of the second round, like most all teams will have those guys on their boards. But like once you get to the end of the second and the start of the third, it is every team's board is so different. So it's really tough to project where anyone could go today, just because everyone's going to have a different opinion. One thing I noticed today that does happen sometimes, or last night, I should say, a lot of teams are going big. A lot of teams are going with big guys. Vegas won with a bunch of big guys, big forwards. And, everyone looks at that and says, oh, look, they just had a really good season and they won the Stanley Cup. They're the best team in the West. This is what their roster makeup looked like. We need to do that. So if there's a trend, maybe it's that they go big. The Wild did go big with their first picks. Stramel's definitely in that mold.
Interesting. What I know UND has a few guys that are hoping to hear their names called. Tell us who you think might get picked up today.
Yeah, I think the first two guys off the board will be Jaden Perron and Andrew Strathman. I think Perron will probably go before Strathman, but they're both looking at second through fourth round, probably.
Still early in the day.
Yeah, they should be going, but the draft will start at 10 a.m. here in just a little bit. They should be going probably before 1 p.m. I'm not sure if either of them are going to go in the first half of the second round, but once you get to the end of the second, now you're starting to get into, anyone could take them. Perron and Strathman are both not big players. So they kind of go against the current philosophy of what teams might be doing. So maybe they drop a little because of that, but Perron is just unbelievably skilled. He's a really smart player. He really can set up teammates well. His skill level is extremely high. Strathman is he's an offensive defenseman. He can shoot the puck. He can skate. He's got some work to do rounding out his defensive game. He's coming to UND in 2 years. He'll be there in 2024. I think teams who look at Strathman and draft him know there's some work to be done, but they probably see, hey, once that work is done, he's going to be a really good player because there are a lot of elements to his game that are exciting. So I think both those guys go early in the day, first half of the day. And then in the second half, there are a couple of guys who could go. Michael Emerson is a forward. He was draft eligible last year as well, did not get picked, but he had a breakout year this year. He's still draft eligible and he can skate. He's a bigger guy. He would be a guy that NHL teams look at and say, this guy can play a bottom six role for us in the future, just with the way he skates and goes to the net and makes plays. So he's another guy who I think has a good chance of going. And then the last two who could go, but I'm thinking that it's more likely they do not go than they do, but it's not out of the question, would be Jake Livanovich, defenseman coming in this year. And then David Klee, a forward who's going to come in 2024 or maybe even 2025. He's a little bit more of a project.
So for Jaden and Andrew, those guys you're saying are locks. Which teams do you see them fitting into?
That's I just don't know exactly which teams really like those guys. Sometimes when you start getting into the later rounds, scouts try to keep it under wraps which guy they really like, because maybe their team doesn't have a pick in the third round or something, and they're hoping they can drop to the fourth, and they don't want other teams to know that that's their guy. Perron interviewed with 14 teams at the combine. Strathman interviewed with 11. Logic would tell you that those are the teams that like them. However, I always hear from kids every year who get picked and they're like, yeah, that wasn't one of the teams that they'll be like, yeah, I talked to 22 teams at the combine and this team that picked me was one of the 10 that never talked to me at all. So it's really tough to guess who could, I'd just be throwing a dart at the wall with no actual good info on that.
It's just crazy how different each sport draft is. And like you mentioned, the NHL draft is you're picking these 18, 19, 20-year-olds and just hoping they develop in the right way. Name out of Warroad that we've constantly been hearing about is Jason Shakabe. Where do you think he's going to get picked today? Do you think he'll even get picked today?
He'll get picked. He's very much like Jaden Perron in the sense that he's a smaller guy. Again, if teams start going big, He's a guy, maybe he drops a little bit, but he's a very, very smart player, really high skill level. He's like Perron. He's a guy who likes to pass. He sets up his teammates all the time. He is going to go, I would guess it'll be somewhere around the 3rd, 4th round range is where I'm going to start really watching to see if he goes. But yeah, he's just a really, really smart player and had a great season. He went to Green Bay after playing for World and winning Mr. Hockey, and he played well in Green Bay. And I think that helps his cause. And he might not be the only World guy going. At the end of the draft, goalie Hampton Slakinski, he was the Frank Brimsek winner this year in Minnesota as the top goalie. He's a guy who could get picked. I'm not going to say he for sure will, but there is definitely a possibility. So 2 NHL draft picks on the same high school team up in World would definitely be a feat for that program.
Well, I'm hoping that they can hear their names called. I know the draft starts in just 9 minutes, and you got to get going. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your morning to talk with us, Brad.
Absolutely. Thanks, Logan.
Thank you. Brad Schlossman giving us all the NHL hockey insight ahead of the draft. You can catch that at 10 a.m. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with Hot Mike right after this. NCAA voted against seeding 16 teams for the FCS playoffs for the 2023 season. I was able to catch up with NDSU Athletic Director Matt Larsen. We'll get his thoughts right after this. You're watching Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, Inform.com, and KSFL.
This is Hot Mic. Hot Mic. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everyone. Second hour of our show. Dom Izzo out on vacation. I'm Logan Campbell filling in for him. Mike Capel is here guest hosting. So yesterday, the NCAA decided that it was going to put off the proposal to seed the top 16 teams for the FCS playoffs. Nothing's changing. It's staying the same. top 8 teams. Rest have to bid. I was able to take some time to stop up and talk to NDSU Athletic Director Matt Larsen and get his thoughts on the situation. Take a listen. So today you guys had the meeting discussing FCS playoffs. What was the decision?
Well, I think part of what it was is, so again, the idea of going from 8 seeded teams to 16, which the committee's in favor of. I think a lot of Division I ADs are in favor of, commissioners, et cetera. And so today it really was a financial decision. You know, there's been a lot of talk from the Transformation Committee about investment in championships, maybe expansion of brackets, those things. But a lot of it comes down to funding. And I think the decision today was a lot of these adjustments to championships are going to hold off at least for another year. Would give us another year to look at impact on budgets from the NCAA perspective. So not a surprise by any stretch. We knew that would certainly be a possibility, that there just budgetarily wouldn't be enough to cover it this year.
When you hear that there's no funding for FCS, as an athletic director, how does that make you feel?
Well, you know, and again, I think that the thing that you have a little solace in is it's not just FCS. As they look across really all of the championships, they want to enhance all of them. But that comes at a cost, and there has to be funding in place and new revenue streams and those types of things. So it's not just a disappointment for FCS. It's a lot of the championships I think that we're looking to have, you know, maybe some expansion or reinvestment just isn't going to happen this year. And so we'll have to get in line next year, and hopefully from a budget, from a revenue standpoint, there's opportunities to maybe make some of the changes that I think in all these championships will be really positive in terms of increased access, less regionality of championships, all positive stuff, but we'll just have to maybe wait another year.
Is it frustrating that you have to wait?
You know, we've been in this model for a long time, so you know, it's one of those things. It is what it is, and I still think it's one of the best NCAA championships that we put on. You know, a 24-team championship that's played at a really high level. So again, we always thought that it'd be nice to get there. The fact that we're actually even a step closer, I think, is a really positive. So would it have been great to have it this year? Absolutely. But it'll give the fans, it'll give the media something to talk about this year when the bracket comes out and, you know, there's regional matchups and some of those things. But again, I think even if we got to 16 seeds, there'd still be a lot of those same conversations of how did this person be 16 and this not 17, whatever it is. So, you know, frustrating, but I completely get it as well.
Was there discussions about how, like, plans that are going to be put in place to create revenue for next year?
Well, I think a lot of what we're seeing at the NCAA level right now is a lot of the TV contracts are coming up. And so I know next year the TV contract for basketball remains flat, so there's no new revenue opportunities there. But I think the plan from an NCAA perspective is to break up some of these other championships and put them out there to bid on their own and see what value we can get. And so we think there's a lot of great opportunity when you look at FCS football, you look at women's basketball, you look at softball, maybe Division I baseball as well, and some of these other sports that are really niche sports but have a great following on a national level. There may be opportunities to generate additional revenues that could then go back in and feed some of these championship investments.
There's been a lot of talk about moving up to FBS. Does this maybe motivate you guys a little bit more to maybe make that bump up?
You know, I would say, I don't know if it's necessarily a motivation per se. Again, I think, you know, the FCS has been really good to NDSU. We've been fortunate to have some great success. And like I said earlier, I think you know, there's a reason why the college football playoff is looking to expand and get bigger, because I think they do at some level. You look at the FCS playoff championship model, and it is one of the best. You know, you have 24 teams, and, you know, college football playoff isn't going to go to that, but they're going to go to 12. And I think a lot of that is predicated on they see the success of the FCS championship. So no, I don't think it's necessarily motivation. I've always said if we were ever even going to entertain that, it's got to be for a lot of reasons, you know, beyond just the championship bracket.
Are you guys entertaining that conversation yet?
Well, I talked to one of your colleagues the other day, and he asked that same thing. And you know, I wouldn't say we're entertaining anything right now, but you know, we've always said we need to position NDSU for whatever may be next, and that could be a lot of things. And to me, that philosophy still changes. We're going to continue to invest at NDSU. We're going to continue to grow here, and if that means we're in our current leagues, then we're going to try to win those leagues and have great success. And that's always been our philosophy, no matter where we are, is we're going to try to continue to grow and improve and invest at a high level.
You talk about growing and improvement. Where are you hoping to see that this coming athletic year?
Well, as I look out the window and I see the Nodak Insurance Company Football Performance Complex, that's a great sign of growth and improvement. Just, it's an unbelievable facility. We're going to open up the We Be Giving operations building here in the next month and a half, and that's going to have huge impacts on all of our teams and student athletes that utilize that facility. So that's a huge step forward for us. We've done $110 million in athletic facility projects in the last 10 years or so. That's really changed the landscape. So that's a great way to get better and improve. And then, I think across the board and from an athletic program standpoint, our goals are to compete for Summit League, Missouri Valley football, and Big 12 championships. And that certainly doesn't change as we move into this year.
Is that the western part of that building?
It is. We kind of call it the West Operations Building, and we'll have a new weight room. We'll actually hopefully get access to the new weight room this Friday to be able to do our final walkthrough there. But new weight room, sports medicine space, recruiting area. So it's going to be state of the art in so many ways. And when you compare it on the landscape of college athletics, it's going to be one of the better ones in the country.
I haven't been up here in a while, clearly, because I haven't seen that. It's huge, so much bigger than the fall.
It's massive, and we've had a chance to. You can kind of see through the doors into the weight room. It's a huge space, and just some of the other spaces too. If they're half as nice as what the renderings are going to look like, it's going to be really impressive. And I know our student athletes, our coaches are excited to get in there and finally get a chance to use it. A lot of the student athletes now, we've recruited them to this facility, and so they've seen renderings, they've seen the construction. Well, now they get to finally use it, so really excited to see them get through the building and use it for what it was intended to be.
When is that expected to be done?
So the complete building should be done right around August 1st. Like I said, we'll start getting access to probably the north half of that building here probably next week, but we won't have student athletes in there yet. There's some things that we still need to do. We still need to do some branding in there, but it should be completely done around August 1st, just in time for a lot of our fall sports reporting here in August. And then we'll look to do a ribbon cutting probably sometime in September.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
From an athletic administration standpoint, what's next for NDSU?
That's a great question. We ask ourselves that a lot. We've done incredible amounts of facility investment projects. Last year we opened up 2 new facilities. And so I think for us, it's just, you look at everything that we do, what are ways that we can get better? Obviously there's a lot of talk about name, image, and likeness and collectives and transfer portal and all those things, and trying to make sure we're managing those things the best way we can. For our coaches standpoint, from a student athlete standpoint, we're providing opportunities if that's a space that they want to live in and have some success from a marketplace or from an NIL perspective. So making connections with the community and our student athletes. So those are things that as we look forward, that's the new wave and the new age of college athletics, taking the new transformation committee recommendations and implementing them into the way we do our business. A lot of those things are already in place, which is good, but there's some things that we'll make adjustments to. And so that's going to be a lot of the focus of this year, again, with continuing to try to compete for championships.
There's an article that came up today that they're bumping up the entrance fee to $5 million. Does that maybe make you guys take a step back and think, okay, maybe we shouldn't?
No, I think, again, when you look at anything down the road, again, probably I wasn't here, but when we went Division II to Division I, those it's not a one cost or a 1 year decision. Those kinds of things, you're looking long term and what's best for NDSU or what's best for the particular institution. And so for me, it's more a decision of, is that the right place for us to be? And if it is, then obviously you manage and work through all the steps and those things. So it's a huge increase, but again, it comes down to, I think if you're a school considering that, it comes down to, this is more of a long-term decision. In that case, if we think that's where we need to be, then the fee is what the fee is.
Do you think there will ever be a point where you're like, okay, yes, we want to make this jump, let's do it?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't, because it's not as simple as to say, we're going to go FBS. There's a lot of conferences, conference makeup and matchup, I think, mean a lot. Like right now, you look at, where our football program is, where all the rest of our programs are. We're in really good leagues that make a lot of sense for us. And I think we're in some of the better leagues at the mid-major space, certainly at the FCS level. I think we're at the best. And so a lot of those things, there's a lot of decisions or criteria that go into those things anytime you're looking at who you're going to be affiliated with, what league you're going to play in, and those things. So just to say it's either a yes or no is probably probably not doing the question justice enough.
All right, so what do we make of that?
They're always good about talking circles around that one, and it is tough. And what's a great fit? I don't know. I heard an idea yesterday that I had not heard that I think actually makes a lot of sense, where NDSU, SDSU, the two Montanas, and I don't know how you'd fill the rest of this thing out, but kind of start their own thing, start their own conference. So I don't know who else would round that. I guess you'd bring USD and UND along for the ride on that. So that's 6 teams. I don't know.
Conference?
Could you start looking at like an Augustana? I don't know if a St. Thomas would be interested in some kind of an arrangement like that to give you a big market. It's hard to say, but I will say this about the move up, because every time the move up discussion, so it fired up because of San Diego State. Everybody's talking about that, and I always love it when Gopher fans chime in about NDSU football making a move, as if Gopher football has some great history of massive success. And
ooh, the shade.
Well, I'm sorry. Like, and here's the thing about Gopher football. First of all, when PJ Fleck came to Minnesota, I was super excited because look, it'd be fun to see Gopher football be relevant for once. I'm 50 years old. This team has beat Ohio State in my lifetime, maybe twice. I think they've maybe beat Michigan a handful of times in 50 years. They've made no Rose Bowl appearance since like 1960. And so when I see these Gopher fans getting all high and mighty, and I'm mostly talking football here, but in a broader sense about the Big Ten, about, oh yeah, NDSU football thinks it's all this and all that. Well, first of all, you guys won't even play NDSU.
Right.
Which is hilarious because NDSU beat Minnesota last time they played, and they won't play them. And don't give me this, well, there's no excuse because I'm looking at your future schedule. You're playing some heavy hitters like Louisiana Lafayette and Buffalo, and you played Western Illinois, a team that's barely FCS. It's just a glorified Division II school that's no longer even going to be in the Missouri Valley. They can't even hang in the Missouri Valley. And they have Buffalo on the schedule. Ooh. So that's what the Gophers do when they have a chance to schedule non-conference games. They don't go out and schedule tough opponents. They schedule the Ragin' Cajuns, and that's who they're going to play. But they won't. In Eastern Michigan is coming to town. So don't give me when I see Gopher fans talking about NDSU this, NDSU that. When it comes to football, if NDSU and Minnesota played 10 times, NDSU would win 3 to 5 of those games. No problem.
You think if they played this year, would you say NDSU would beat Minnesota?
See, now, this is the thing. It's changing now. For once, Minnesota is actually a relevant team. In fact, until this season and the last few seasons, NDSU out-recruited a lot of times in the state of Minnesota. Now, that's what's changing, and that's what's going to be difficult, actually, for a lot of these FCS schools in the area, is that having a relevant Minnesota football program for the first time in modern history, this team has been totally irrelevant forever, for 60 years, is bad for some of these small schools, because if Minnesota's an actual draw for some of the top talent, it just is going to make it a little more difficult for some of these FCS schools. But Gopher fan, the future looks bright. I'm excited. It's fun because, look, it's fun when the Gophers are good to actually, I want to see what the Gophers are doing. Like before PJ Fleck, I could have cared less what the Gopher football team is doing because they were so irrelevant. And so it's exciting now to see that they're recruiting more in Minnesota. I think that's good for the state, and it's good for the fan base, and it's good to bring people out to the stadium, and that's good. But when these Gopher fans get all high and mighty, it's like, listen, you're some middling Big Ten team. To act like NDSU couldn't be some mid-level FBS team in a lot of conferences is just not true. NDSU could be as good as Nebraska in the Big Ten.
Yes. That's not that hard to do.
Exactly. Wisconsin, Nebraska. Like, as we get into and that's the other thing, is we get into this world of NIL and the changing landscape of college football. Like Nebraska, it's already happened to. You look at a team like Wisconsin. How much longer, especially with USC coming in, how much longer are they going to be considered a top tier in the Big Ten? So when it comes to Big Ten football, you got Michigan and Ohio State and everybody else. So Gopher fans, because of geography and your market, is the reason that you're even a part of any of that. In fact, I could see, thank goodness for PJ Fleck, because if he had not come in and it continued the way it was, one could easily see as time goes on, St. Thomas leapfrogging Minnesota.
Yeah. Really, though?
Yeah, because, again, the Gophers, it isn't like you're in there because, oh, yeah, you're some stalwart of a football legacy. You're in there because you're in a large market.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason you're in the Big Ten. So don't dump on NDSU as if, oh, NDSU couldn't do what we do. Yeah, trust me, NDSU could only beat Ohio State twice in 50 years. No problem.
Right.
In fact, NDSU's beaten Iowa more recently than the Minnesota Gophers have. So Gopher fans, dial it back a little bit when you're like, oh, yeah, NDSU, can't believe they think they could go FBS. Because you guys have such great success winning the Meineke Car Care Bowl and the Chick-fil-A.com Bowl and making an appearance in the Pinstripe Bowl. I mean, give me a break.
Pop off.
Well, and again, I'm happy that the Gopher football program, it's fun.
Yeah.
But when I see these Gopher football fans act like they've done something, what have you done?
Nothing.
Who do you play? You play good teams because they're in your conference, but the second you don't have to play a conference team, you're playing Buffalo.
Eastern Michigan.
And Eastern Michigan and Louisiana Lafayette. So get bent on your argument that NDSU thinks they can do it.
They can't.
Yeah, NDSU can lose to Ohio State every year just like you guys can.
And
if it came down to it.
I'll say this. JMU made the jump last year.
Mm-hmm.
Did well. They were ranked 25th in the country at some point.
Yeah.
If JMU can do that and NDSU beats them, and I hate to say this because I went to JMU, but NDSU beats them every time.
Right.
They're going to have no problem.
Yeah,
if they make that jump.
NDSU is a solid college program. Are they Alabama? No. Are they? No. There's not many Alabamas and Clemsons and whatever else out there, right? But for Minnesota Gopher football fans, specifically football, to act like the Big Ten once you get past, because look, once you get past Michigan and Ohio State, Big Ten football ain't all that. It ain't that great. Illinois, Indiana, give me a break. Purdue once in a while. I'm sorry,
yeah.
Big Ten football, and now you're going to get USC in there. But after you get past those 3 or 4 teams, same thing in the SEC.
Well, SEC, ACC, Big Ten basketball schools. I'll say that.
Right. But
besides
I don't
the
know.
ones that you
I just
picked out.
every time I see this and I see Gopher fans chime in with their snark, I'm just thinking to myself, well, what has your football program accomplished? Like I said, I'm 50 years old. I can't think of one signature win that team has. Didn't they beat Wisconsin a few years ago and it was like a big deal? That's one I can kind of remember that. I could rattle off 10 signature NDSU wins.
I can tell you confidently, I literally did not pay attention at all to Minnesota until I moved here.
Nobody does. I would argue that in a football sense, NDSU as a brand for football across the country is at least on par with Minnesota football in terms of if you just went and talked to people and asked about awareness of program. And even when you look at NFL players, I think NDSU has right now as many NFL players as Minnesota does in the league. And certainly NDSU players have been far more high-profile picks than any Gopher player that I can think of in recent memory. So, again, I'm excited for the future of Minnesota football. I think it's fun. I love PJ Fleck and the energy that he brought. I was excited when they hired him because, like I said, it'd be fun to have a relevant team, but just this whole thing where some of these Gopher fans act like the Gophers are something and NDSU is just some little school. Look, NDSU can only play in what they're in, right?
Right.
When they got into FCS, it was something different than it is now. But you play who you play. And again, when NDSU has a chance to play, what do? They go play Iowa. They go play Kansas State. They'll go play Minnesota. When Minnesota has a chance to play somebody, who do they play? Louisiana Lafayette and Buffalo and Eastern Michigan. There you go.
There's our hot take of
There's
the day.
Hot Mike's hot take.
Conference realignment becomes official July 1st. That is the new year for NCAA. So, again, no moves can be made for NDSU until they get an invite. It's hopefully just a matter of when for NDSU. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, We'll catch up on everything that's happened with Grant Nelson over the past day. You're watching Hot Mic on WDAY Extra and Forum.com and KSFL. Welcome back, everyone, to Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, KSFL, and Forum.com. It's officially Sweet Home. What?
Just this Alabama thing, or just the Gopher thing.
Well, it's officially Sweet Home Alabama for Grant Nelson.
Yeah, he's going there.
Grant Nelson, we knew that this was going to happen, but it was made official that Grant Nelson is going to play basketball at the University of Alabama. We weren't able to talk to Grant, but, you know, with basketball, we see them twice a week, so we get to know the parents. His parents
Great
are
people.
awesome. They wanted to talk about their son, so take a listen. On Grant's big decision, has it hit you guys yet that he's going to Alabama?
Well, yeah, we kind of knew. Yeah, I went to Alabama and Arkansas with him. So,
Okay, so what were your thoughts on the two schools?
I would say we did about 16 hours at each school of talking about how they can help Grant perform and get to the NBA by training them and by helping him with somewhat the way he lands after a shot, to all kinds of just hours of how they had looked over his behaviors. And one of the schools said around 80 hours they put in on watching his film. One of the other guys was many hours. I can't remember. I hate to say exact. So yeah, very, very fun to see. Very fun.
What were the facilities like at each of these schools?
Oh, phenomenal. There are a lot of, and they do a little, they do stuff like the NBA does with GPSs on them. So if they work out too much a day, they have them shut down and rest more. If they work out not enough, they go back to the gym in the evening. So just a lot of extra, a lot of top-notch stuff that's real cool to see.
That's wild. So months ago, Grant was going through the process of potentially getting drafted. What was the decision factor for him pulling out of the draft and entering the transfer portal?
I think it was him and his agent. They just probably knew where he was at. And it's smarter to go to school again.
Are you guys excited for him to be, or nervous for him to be moving away?
Not really.
No, I'm not really nervous about it because he's been away. I'm excited. We get to visit someplace warm when we do go watch game.
That'll be really nice, not having to drive through the snow.
Yeah, just hop on the plane and yeah, go to him.
So, what were your guys' conversations like with Alabama's coaches?
Well, it was kind of just about how to get him to the NBA in a year. Hopefully, it's just that's what their job is. They want to do that so that their school, other guys want to go to their schools. That was the talk. You might hear thunder in the background.
Okay.
We got thunder going on here. But yeah, they worked very hard to try to sell us on either one of the schools could get them to the NBA. That was like their job, and I understand it because once you see the way they operate, it's a different way of thinking than we're probably used to.
Did they dive into at all what his role will be on the team?
Yes, both. Yep. Yeah, he'll be an active member of Alabama's team. He knows more about that. I don't always listen to that stuff as well as I should. I listen to more of the other stuff.
When he told you guys that he wanted to go to Alabama, what was your reaction?
I was happy when we talked about it. It was just like perfect. That's what I felt too. So.
Yeah, I felt it too. Just with visiting with both schools. I don't know. I just thought, I don't know. Right away, I thought I liked Alabama better. I'm not sure why, but.
How proud are you of Grant for him going through this entire process and then finally finding a spot at Alabama?
Very proud.
Well,
I don't know.
He works hard. He's good at he's good at basketball. No, they was laughing at me and Joel. And Joel, they're both.
He cries so easy.
Yeah, they love to see me
they
cry.
laugh at him.
Yeah, but he worked hard, like all of my boys do, and kids. They work hard to do what they want to do, and I'm so proud of them that they just take leadership.
Yeah.
I went through this process. I got to say, Justin, Meg's oldest boy, he's Justin Thomas, and Grant worked so hard, and we did too. We worked so hard to find the right agent, the right teams to go with, the right to get to the NBA combine. we worked our tails off to do things the best we knew how, and the best. I think we've talked to probably 16 different NBA people, whether they were coaches, agents, whatever, to get to this day.
Players.
And players and find out what they know and what Grant needs to do. And that's kind of why our decision is where it's at.
First of all, congratulations. So we'll see him in the red, maroon, and
How
white.
exciting.
So exciting. They were so happy.
He was so fun to watch.
So fun to watch.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what he can do at the next level. Hopefully he can put a little weight on, because if he can get a little thicker, I think he's a real force to be dealt with for sure.
Well, and them just talking about the technology that they have and all down at Alabama, it's crazy.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. But the craziest part about that is that he's not only the athletic freak in that family. I feel like every time I interview with his parents, they want to get the whole entire family involved. Like they'll say pull their sons into the conversation. So they actually have a son named Leif Nelson who throws javelin at Minot State. Take a listen to this interview, because I was thrown like, whoa, when I talked to Leif yesterday.
Hey, Leif. Our son Leif just went to Alabama and California looking at schools for
Yes.
track. He got 5th in the nation in javelin.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leif, come here, bud. Say hello.
You gotta meet Logan.
Meet Logan.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Congratulations on getting 5th in the country. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Oh, have
Yeah,
you that?
he went to Minot State, so
Oh, that's right. I remember you guys telling me that.
yeah, so encouraged him to try to get to the level Leif can get to. He'd like to do the Olympics one day if he could. So
What year are you going into, Leif?
Just graduated, so I'm gonna be a 5th year.
What are you guys feeding your kids up there? That's crazy that they're all these insane athletes.
I don't know.
a lot of real food.
Yeah, real food.
Real food is good food.
Not many boxes of food around our place ever. Do a shout out for Leif Nelson and then in his endeavors.
Oh,
Where
I
are you going
will.
to? He can't tell you what school he's going to yet, but
He just committed.
he committed today. You got to get this, hey?
Oh, you committed today to where?
USC.
Like the
Southern
Trojans?
California. Yeah.
Wow! Congratulations
Yeah, thank you.
for javelin.
Yeah.
That's awesome. There we go. We got some breaking news.
Yeah,
That is totally breaking. It's totally cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I gotta
Yeah.
raise my kids up in Devils Lake. You guys could have the great water up there.
Yes.
Really, that's.
And how
for
far
all
did
of
you
the kids.
throw your furthest last year, Leif?
This year.
Or this year, I mean.
237 feet, 72 meters.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Not bad.
I would like throw it like 10 feet and be like, "That's pretty good."
So please do a shout out for him also, my friend.
100%. We definitely will get that in there. I really appreciate you guys.
Hey, Leif.
Nels is one of a kind, truly. But they were so excited, just
I
as
love
excited as
that.
they were for Grant,
Yeah.
for Leif. They
It
have
should be.
two
Fantastic.
Division 1 athletic kids.
We could see a Nelson in the Olympics someday.
We could see a Nelson in the Olympics someday. We could see a Nelson in the NBA. And the craziest part, and they swear their grandma knows best, they said that the youngest Nelson, who's currently a high schooler at Devils Lake, is the best athlete out of all of them. So who knows where
There's
where
another
he'll-
one coming.
There's 9 of them. Who knows where he'll end up?
Man, it's
That
like,
Nelson family.
it's like a zombie apocalypse. They just keep coming. Like there's more Nelsons, more Nelson athletes on the way.
If you want to have an athlete, go up to Devil's Lake. I guess they got the good water. All right, we're going to
Absolutely.
take a quick break. When we come back, my sister will join us on the show from Seattle. You're watching Hot Mic on WDUI Extra and Forum.com and KSFM. everyone. Hope everyone's having a great Thursday morning. I'm so excited for this next guest. So I don't know if people know about my family tree, but there's 4 Campbells. We have an older brother, Ian. Then there's me. Then we have a younger sister, Sophie, and a youngest. She's a girl. Her name is Cameron.
I'm trying to imagine four of you-ish people together
we're all very
interacting.
Similar. Our personalities are very similar, but also very different at the same time. But we're all 2 years apart, so we're all super close. And my sister, Sophie, is definitely the most adventurous out of all of us. When I moved to North Dakota, she had to one-up me and just go live on a fishing boat in Alaska.
What?
And it has been a year since she has made that decision. And now she's joining us on the show because she's officially off the boat. Sophie, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Very excited. A little nervous.
I'm surprised that you were able to get up. She's in Seattle right now, so it's 8:30 there. I'm surprised you're able to get up. Because normally, do you get up early now?
Yeah. Well, the past 3 days, I've still been just like finishing up all my work stuff. So I've been having to get up early to go into the office and do all of that. But other than that, my shifts have been starting at either 4 a.m., 6 a.m., or 7 a.m. for the past 6 months. So I've been up early now, which is nice because normally I sleep in really late.
Yeah, I was telling Capel, I was like, normally she sleeps until 1, so I don't know if she's
Mhm.
gonna be up.
Yeah.
Good for her. I
Sophie,
miss those days.
Yeah, me too. Sophie, tell us a little bit about what your experience this past year has been like living on multiple boats with multiple fishermen, with multiple fishes, dead fishes on the boat.
It's been really crazy, very wild, and not at all what I expected it to be like. When you first start this job, they kind of tell you it's gonna be one big adventure, which it has been for the most part. You know, I got to see a lot of really cool things and meet a lot of really cool people, but it's definitely not the grand adventure that they tell you that it is. So moving from boat to boat, I'm on them for at most 3 months at a time, which is what I have done most of the time I've been on there. It's really nerve-wracking when you first get on a boat, especially being a woman on a boat that is mostly men. I have been on plenty of boats where I am the sole female on a boat of 40 men, so it's definitely interesting. Very entertaining. Guys are a little weird.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So, but it's been really fun and I've learned a lot and I've gotten a lot of really good experience and seen some cool things. And now I can confidently say I can identify plenty of fish in the West Coast and in Alaska. So, great skill set for the resume.
So I just want to ask you, Sophie. So you're on a boat out at sea for 3 months without being on land at all.
So it depends. Depending their trips is what they're called, where they'll go out for a trip and come back in. Those trips can last, depending on what type of boat you're on, it can last anywhere from a week to 45 days. So it depends. I have fortunately never been on a 45. My longest trip was 28 days out at sea, and they'll go out and then come back to dock and offload all the product. But sometimes they'll offload to a different boat out in the middle of the ocean or like in like the bay. So there are some other observers who will go 3 months without ever touching land and just being on the boat the entire time.
Wow.
I can never
So,
do that.
yeah, I haven't had to do that. I've mostly gone out and come in and I've gotten a day on land and then gone back out, which is nice.
So where generally do you port in Alaska? Which cities, or is it all around the state, or is there kind of a home base while you're up there?
Yeah, so it's on the Aleutian Island chain,
Okay.
which is that little part out, and mostly it's out of Dutch Harbor, which if you're a Deadliest Catch fan, that's where
Right.
all the Deadliest Catch boats are.
Okay.
So we go in and out of there as well. There's a couple of other small islands or other ports that boats will go into, but I've mostly gone out of Dutch Harbor.
So what have you been on an actual cruise ship before, or is this like your first experience with doing marine stuff? doing this?
This is my first experience being on boats for that long. Yeah. I've never been on a cruise ship. There were a couple cruise ships like in dock recently because of the summer, and we were all laughing about it because there are these massive cruise ships with all these people walking around Dutch Harbor. We're like, why would you choose to come here? Like, we're just walking around and we're like, why are you guys here? But I don't know, it's to each their own.
Because it's a poppin' party, that's why. But on your ship, so like on a cruise ship is a nice pool and a bar and room service. So what are the accommodations? So you said there's maybe 40 dudes and you on this ship. What type of accommodations does everybody have? Do you have like a small, like 200 square foot room or what?
Yeah, so one of the nice things about my job on these boats is per the government's regulations, we have to have at least similar accommodations to like the officers on the boat, the key crew, like the engineers on there, the mate, like we have to have similar accommodations to them. So the boats that I've been on, I've always had not like my own room, but the observers will have their own room. So I'll work with one other person. So we'll share a room and we sleep in these little bunk beds. Um, that sometimes don't have sheets, so they always say to bring your own sheets, bring all your own stuff just in case if you they probably don't have a pillow, so bring your own pillow. On my last boat, I didn't have a pillow, so I had a pillowcase but no pillow. So I stuffed a bunch of clothes into the pillowcase and used that as my pillow because I didn't have one. I got one later, but I didn't have one at first. And we I've been on one boat where I had my own bathroom, which was awesome because normally that boat you'll share a bathroom with another room with like 6 men.
Sounds awful.
But it got really nasty
Yeah.
apparently, and there were some problems. So the manager on that boat boarded up the door to the processor room so they couldn't use it anymore.
Oh my
So
god.
only the observers
Yeah.
could, but other than that, we have to share bathrooms. Being a girl on a boat, I'm always like, whichever bathroom has the locked door is the one that I'm using.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going anywhere else. And everyone's always like, yeah, no, that makes sense. Please do. So
You see anything crazy? Like, I mean, you put a bunch of guys on a boat and you're going to get people pushing, shoving, fights. You ever see anything crazy like that going on? And how do they deal with that when you're out to sea? Like, you got to restrain somebody or something, or how does that work?
yes, fights definitely happen. Not as often as you would think, but often enough to where you're like, it's like, okay, like this is happening again. So it's just like tensions run high.
sure.
Those guys work 16 hours a
Right.
day consistently. Like I feel really bad for them and they're all in pain. So, they'll fight, like someone says something wrong, they don't like it, they'll fight, it'll get separated depending on how bad it gets. Maybe someone will have to get off the boat, maybe they won't. But like inside scoop. Okay. So
That's what we want. We want the dirt.
So, what happens a lot of times, there's this thing called a freezer hold, which is where they put all of the product, like they'll pack it into the pan, they put water in it, freeze it, package it, and then put it into the freezer hold, which can hold like up to, I think the biggest boat I've been on held like 750 tons of this stuff. So there are no cameras down there on a lot of boats. So some of these guys, like if they just need to get aggression out, like it'll be like locker boxing kind of, in
Oh,
sports.
yeah.
And they'll
Fight Club.
go down into the and they'll go down into the freezer hold and do that because there are no cameras, so no one will get in trouble.
Sure.
Oh my god.
But it's just like to get that aggression out.
Did you
I've
It's like
never
hockey.
seen it. I don't ever want to go down there.
Oh, so you didn't do Fight Club, Sophie?
I think you should challenge someone
I
on the
know.
next boat, Sophie, right when you walk. I mean, you got it. Listen, you're the only female on that boat. You have to assert yourself. You go in and you'll find the biggest guy and be like, freezer room now.
Sophie can do that with her mouth. She doesn't
I
need
love
her
it.
actions.
Yeah,
Sophie.
Is she mouthier than you? Because you're not too mouthy
Oh my
usually.
gosh, we are.
Although I have seen you. You were pretty. When we did a road trip recently for a story.
Preface: I was hangry, Sophie, and you know
She
how
was
I get.
getting hangry, and it was
She's
funny
the
because
worst.
for like 2 hours she's in the back, and I find you generally mild mannered. We're in a lot of stressful situations.
Yeah.
Well, there was the in Bismarck, but
That was not my fault.
I've only seen it a few times, but when you get hangry, because you're not loud and obnoxious about it, but just under your breath, you just have a little negative comment about everything going on
Yes.
in that
Oh my
moment
God,
for like,
yes.
and so like was like for 2.5 hours in the car, she's just like, she would think of something and be like, "No, I can't believe this, this person, I can't believe that."
It wasn't
Yeah,
even
It's
that
just
bad.
like little comments under her
No,
breath. It's
me
so
and
funny.
Sophie, it's funny. Growing up, I was definitely more like louder and aggressive.
Yeah.
And then she was nicer, I feel like. And then in college, we like flipped a switch, and I became so much nicer, and she became louder and more aggressive.
Because
So
I got
we're,
to
like,
imagine,
opposites.
Sophie, I mean, look, you're around a lot of men. There's no other women. I'm sure you've more than once probably had to put your finger in somebody's face and be like, "Hey, enough."
Yeah. You definitely have to
Stop.
be extremely assertive,
Yeah.
especially because these guys can get very bold.
Sure.
Like to act like you're into them
Yeah.
when you're not.
Right.
And you really have to be like, back off. Like,
Oh, guys are
don't make
terrible.
me
Like
go to the
literally.
captain.
Yeah. Yeah. Women can just say hi to a guy and like, "Oh, she's totally into me." Like, no, she just like, she has to say hi to you.
No,
She
you
works
smile
here.
at a guy on these boats, and they're like, "She wants me," and it's like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah. No, that's
not the case.
So Sophie, how often are you hitting really rough sea? Are they pretty good about kind of navigating around that, or do you end up in pretty rough waters pretty often?
So depending on what time of year it is, B season, which is summer time, it's normally really pretty, not bad weather at all. But I was out during A season, which is January to about March, and I steamed with the boat from Seattle out to Alaska, and I think that was the worst experience of my entire life. Like all A season, it was just like 20 to 30 foot swells,
Ooh.
the boat's flying. I sprained my wrist because of it. I was in the factory and I fell with a full basket of fish. I slipped on one, fell, tipped it completely on me, landed on my hand. Like,
Sounds like a
people are
1920s
flying
comedy
everywhere.
movie where
I know.
she's
Literally like foot
Keystone
up in
Cops.
the air.
Sophie,
So bad.
For those of you that don't know, when she's out on these boats, she doesn't get service or Wi-Fi, or occasionally she gets Wi-Fi, and that's the only way we can communicate through her. So she's pretty disconnected from the world. So Sophie, before we go, we want to give you a quick quiz on recent sports topics that have happened. Okay, are you ready?
I'm not going to know any of them.
All right, really fast. Who won the NHL Stanley Cup Finals?
Is this like multiple choice?
Just take a guess.
Penguins.
It's a good guess.
Close, I guess. It was the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Do you know NBA teams? We're gonna quiz you on this one because this one just happened. Who won the NBA Finals this year?
Miami Heat.
Close. They were in the finals, but it was the Denver Nuggets.
Pretty good.
Good job, Soph.
Oh wait, I did know that one actually. That was on my friend's story. I should have known that one.
Oh wow, should have known that one. Sophie, thanks for joining us this morning. I can't wait to see you next week. It's been long overdue.
Very excited. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. We'll have you on again soon. All right, everyone. So glad you all got to know my sister.
That was fun.
That was
Interesting.
fun.
I'd
I
love
wish
to
we had
find out more
time.
about this boat life.
We'll have to FaceTime her later and find out more stories. All right, we're going to wrap up the show right after this. You're watching Hot Mic on WDAY Extra and Forum.com and KSFL. All right, we got a jam-packed sports night and day today. The Rocket Mortgage.
Mortagi?
That
that's
starts on
misspelled.
ESPN. Yeah, that starts on ESPN Plus. I was looking at that. I was like, that does not look right.
Ah, the old Mortagi.
The NHL draft is currently happening on ESPN Plus. The match, 5:30 tonight on TNT. Wow, this show really flew by. This is the
fun.
fastest show I've ever done.
Thanks for having me in.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, have a good 4th of July if I don't see you.
Yes, have fun at the lake.
I will.
We got all the hot takes from Hot Mike on Hot Mike today.
I didn't get all of them in. I wanted to bag
name.
on Kirk Cousins. I didn't get a chance.
Well, we'll have you on again
Next
soon.
time.
Next time. Thank you guys for watching Hot Mike on WDY Extra, KSFLandForum.com.
Too. She's somewhere around. So, what do you and your buddy Ruse do?
Police.
Really? That's amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah. I want to hear all about it. After I go pee. Do not move. I will be right back.
Nice try. Thought your job would run her off.
At least quiet her down a little bit.